Hey, Ripley, don't worry. Me and my squad of ultimate badasses will protect you. Check it out. Independently targeting particle beam failings. Fry half a city with this puppy. We got tactical smart missiles, phase plasma pulse rifles, RPGs. We got sonic electronic ball breakers. We got nukes. We got knives, sharp sticks.
Knock it off.
Hey guys, it's yet another episode of Filmageddon. I'm Ryan, and of course, I like to watch movies. With me as always is my good buddy, co-host, and professional film critic, Cole Clay. What is up, man?
That is very, very kind words of you to call me a professional, and I will take them.
Where can we find your work, Cole?
You can find my work right now at freshfiction.tv.
Freshfiction.tv, and of course, you can find Filmageddon online. Check us out on our website, filmageddon.com. We are on Facebook, facebook.com/FilmagedonCast, and twitter.com/FilmagedonCast.
All right, and I would like to preface our talks of James Cameron with a couple of notes we have from last week. Correction, last week I said Lars von Trier is from the Netherlands, and he is actually from Denmark. So if anybody is going to call us out for that,
dude,
I
everyone knows where
bad.
Lars von Trier is from. What are you thinking saying that, man?
Well, I don't know. I just want to be as technically precise as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I said I was a professional, or I was proclaimed to be a professional, so I have to flex those chops and live up to those claims.
Redactions.
We also were going to give some shout-outs to some people who interacted with us this week. Jeremy Zills, he commented on our Brothers Bloom review and said that we were 100% correct, so of course we like him automatically.
For real, he's, let's see, he's Twitter at 1973_ZILLS.
We got an email from a listener from Dallas, Texas, named Tyler McCarty, and he also gave us an iTunes review of the show, so thank you for that, Tyler.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. And you can email us if you like, actually, as well. I didn't even mention that before. Filmageddonpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, so we have one more, and I'm going to try and get his name right, but it's Billy Polyhan. He followed us on Twitter, so thanks, Billy.
Thanks, Billy Polyhan, with an unfortunate last name.
Yeah, Billy_Polyhan on Twitter.
That's a cool name, actually. That's not unfortunate. Am I?
No, I mean, it's an okay. I just couldn't say it, so that's why I just had trouble with it.
My last name is Fielder, so Polyhan, I think, like Ryan Polyhan. Like, that's a powerful name, man. Like, you could be a captain of industry with the last name Polyhan.
Powers Polyhan. That'd be pretty cool.
I
have an unfortunate name, Cole Clay. I have two first names, so it always confuses people. Is your name Paul? Is that what? Like, no, it's Cole. It's Cole. And one last thing before we get into our recommendations and conversation. We wanted to bring up, we had some people ask us if the name Filmageddon came from the 1998 Michael Bay film Armageddon.
I'm getting sick of fielding that question. Sure, Michael Bay, friend of the show, but I'm really getting sick of answering that question.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. This is not our namesake. We are not paying an homage to Michael Bay, even though I did see the film probably more than one time in theaters as a child. But we're not bashing Michael Bay. We're not here to do that. Maybe we'll talk about his work, and maybe he'll actually get a little airtime when we talk about James Cameron today, maybe some parallels within their work. But this is probably the last you're going to hear of us referring to this.
Also, it should be noted that I'm actually running animal crackers right down Cole's happy trail into his underwear as we speak and record this. So, in honor of the hit film Armageddon. So, Cole, you've seen a couple of movies. Before we actually started recording, you were pretty excited about two movies that you had just seen. You want to talk about those?
Yes, I do. So, I originally was going to talk about some more artsy films, but I've since thrown that to the wind because it would just be an odd juxtaposition here. So, I recently saw two films. The first one I saw you can find on Netflix, and it's actually kind of relevant because it's directed by Morton Tildum, who you may know from last year's Imitation Game, which is up for some Oscars. This is his first film, and it's titled Headhunters. It came out in 2011, I believe, and I think it's the highest grossing Norwegian movie. So
What
whatever,
does that mean, though? Like, what is that
exactly.
saying?
Yeah, but it's an incredible film. It's grisly. It's dark. And it really is a thinker. If you have to rewind a little bit of it, because there are subtitles, that's okay. It moves in a lot of different directions.
For all you slow readers out there.
All you slow readers out there. And I'm certainly one of them.
So what's it about?
Dude, it's about a lot of things. But in a sense, it starts off as this guy who's this very confident headhunter. He seeks people out for jobs. He recruits them for these huge companies. But on the side, he has this job where he breaks into people's houses and he steals priceless pieces of art, or they have prices on them, but they're very expensive pieces of art. And he does all this to fill his appetite for his lavish lifestyle that he leaves with his wife, his beautiful wife, who's much taller than him, is out of his league. He admits to it. He's this instantly likable character played by Axel Hennie, who you might know. He was in Hercules this past year with The Rock, and actually a pretty good movie, better than expected. But Headhunters, it kind of has a dual meaning in a sense. And so what trajects the plot is and you find a lot of this out in the first few minutes, so we're not giving away any spoilers here. No spoilers. He comes across this guy who's trying to get his head for this job. And he finds out that he has this piece of art that's worth like 100 million, whatever the currency is in Norway.
So why does someone who has a piece of art that's worth $100 million want a job?
Exactly. You find out some things about this man. And he's played by Nicola Coster-Waldau. He plays Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones.
Oh, I love that. Dude, Jaime Lannister is like my favorite character on TV, man.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And so he just is this very slick guy. And you find out that he is a former mercenary. Okay? And this movie goes in so many different directions. So many different turns, not in an M. Night Shyamalan type of way, but in a way that is constantly vexing. It's visceral. It's intense. Great character development. Just pitch perfect direction. A real credit to Morton Tildum for this movie.
And this one's on Netflix?
It is on Netflix.
So you can watch it now?
You can watch it right now. And I mean, I give it my utmost recommendation.
Dude, tight.
I can't believe it slipped through the radar. So, and the next one I saw, I've really watched a lot of movies in the past day. It's been glorious / unproductive, but it's been amazing. I saw this movie with a gentleman who I don't much care for, who you care for, Ryan Reynolds.
Dude, I am a Ryan Reynolds fan. The guy's got charisma, man. I don't know what it is, but he's got it.
So I did enjoy his earlier work, his Van Wilders, his Waitings, things like that. This movie's called The Voices, and it premiered last year at Sundance, and it has not gotten a release since then, until just now on VOD in a very small theatrical release. It's playing here in Houston, where I'm at now, at one theater, but I don't know if it's made its way. I'm sure it's in very small independent chains around the nation, and it's directed by, I have trouble with her name as well, Marjane Satrapi. Okay, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, but she directed Persepolis, which was an Oscar-nominated film from, I believe, 2007. I didn't see that film either.
Was that the little cutesy animated one?
It was, but it was a political commentary, I believe, about Iran. So this movie, The Voices, has Ryan Reynolds playing to that type, playing to this chummy, likable type, but he takes it in some very sick and sadistic ways. And so how he does that is he talks to he's off of his meds. Okay. He talks to his animals because he's off of his meds.
I've seen the trailer for this movie.
Okay. It also stars Anna Kendrick and
Yep.
Gemma Arterton. I haven't seen her either, but apparently she's been in a few things. I think maybe something that slipped under my radar. But his dog is the voice of reason and the cat is the voice of evil.
Nice.
And they have a really funny character dynamic. But the movie is, once again, it's incredibly dark. It's scary. Ryan Reynolds is genuinely frightening, and he does not approach it in a typical Hannibal Lecter sense that you would think of somebody who has like a paranoid schizophrenia. He approaches it with glee and all this happiness to his manner of speaking. Who can resist that smile? I get it. It's instantly likable. But the places he takes it and the direction is very smart, very sharp. And Anna Kendrick gets some good moments too, as you would expect. She's always down for some really interesting roles, aside from doing bigger projects like Into the Woods or some other blockbusters she's had out. So she's no stranger to taking chances.
So this one, limited release right now, VOD?
VOD, yes. I rented it off of iTunes, but yes, it is on video on demand on cable. Which brings me to a quick plug for them, man. They have some really fantastic films on there if you want to find something that's a little off the cuff. But The Voices, it definitely has an interesting perspective on schizophrenia. I mean, it's very good, very, very good.
I don't want to go. I mean, we've got a lot to talk about this episode.
Right.
I don't want to get too much into this, but I just want to make the statement that I like Ryan Reynolds for the very same reason I like Bradley Cooper, and that both of those guys could easily coast by, based on their initial works and their good looks and their charming personality, yada, yada, yada. They could both easily coast by on just bro-fest movies, but they both chose not to. And whether you like their movies or not, they both decided, I'm not just going to be some bros actor. Like, I'm going to do real roles. And, I like that. Bradley Cooper, the first one I saw on him where he was just different, I never expected it, was Limitless, which, man, I think is just so much fun. I love the idea of that movie. And I just never expected to see him play a nerd in the beginning, you know? Yeah,
absolutely. The both of them, yeah, absolutely. They both kind of have the same type of outward projection to a lot of their roles and stuff like that. It's they definitely have interesting work, but I will say that I do not like Ryan Reynolds' recent career choices. I can't remember the last film that I saw that I actually enjoyed. He had Buried, which I had high hopes for in 2010, but unfortunately did not do very well, and it wasn't that great of a movie. Honestly, I didn't like it. But this one, man, it was screened a year ago, but just now coming out. So hopefully this kind of, he has some more interesting stuff coming out, but I don't really see anything too much in the works other than like Deadpool or something like that.
So you can probably guess by the podcast title what we're going to talk about. As we kind of get this podcast fired off, me and Cole, we're just kind of bouncing different ideas. We're keeping it pretty loose, honestly. We're just kind of trying to find a rhythm and some segments we like. And that being said, we're always open to feedback. So once again, hit us up, social media, on our website. What we decided we wanted to do is we wanted to take an episode and talk about the works of a particular director.
Right.
Cole, tell us about the director that we're gonna talk about tonight. I'm excited, man. I'm really excited. Yeah,
and this was surprisingly very easy for us to decide on when we spoke about it. It kind of was just mused to us. It found us. We didn't find it. It was something. It's a director
just like herpes.
Oh gosh, yeah, yeah. It depends on what circles you run in, but yes, indeed. And this is a filmmaker who's certainly not prolific by any stretch. His last two films had a 12-year gap. So when you think about that in perspective of somebody like Woody Allen, who has a film come out every year, granted, these two directors are completely different. There's nothing that could antiquate either one of them to be have any sort of semblance. But this director is somebody who has spoken to us probably since we even knew what a movie was.
I have 1,000%, man.
And this director is James Cameron.
Come with me if you want to live.
It's okay, Mom. He's here to help.
That brigade. Do it! Charge it. Do it! Clear. Clear!
Man, it's game over, man. It's game over.
The days are starting to blur together. The language is a pain, but, I figure it's like field stripping a weapon. Just repetition.
Naughty.
I'm the king of the world!
So, James Cameron has had, the two highest grossing films of all time. That first being Titanic, 1997, which held a theater run of 10 months, which is unheard of, and made an astounding $1.7 billion, I believe is what it is, worldwide.
I saw that movie 3 times in theaters. It's 9 hours of my life.
I'm not even kidding you. I have a friend who will remain nameless. He claims to have seen Titanic 14 times in theaters. No joke.
That's a lot of hours of Leo and Kate.
Right. And so James Cameron, this is a man who practices perfection. He is no stranger to visual effects and being a pioneer on that front. He is an Oscar-winning director, but he really doesn't have the credit or the clout in the film world to to have his films talked about. That people really don't talk about these films, and I find that insane because I haven't thought about him since Avatar, really.
That's an interesting thing you bring up. So as you run around with your film buddies in the industry, no JC love, huh?
Not much. A lot of nostalgic love.
Sure.
For films.
Yeah.
Certain films.
Well, now, do you think that's due to just him putting out a movie every 10 years more than anything?
I think people they really don't. He's out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, I think so. But, they just don't really have a strong relationship with him, I think, because of that. But the man, his films have grossed $6.1 billion. $6.1 billion worldwide. None of these have been franchises. Well, actually, I take that back. Aliens. But
Terminator, I mean...
he started that franchise. He started that.
Right.
Okay. That was him.
Mm-hmm.
They have collectively won 19 Oscars. Now, that can hold a certain amount of clout depending on how you view the Oscars. Okay? We just wanted to really kind of trudge through his films to figure out, does he hold up? Is it worth it? Are these films as good as they were 15 years ago? It had been over a decade since I'd seen Titanic, and I watched the hell out of it, and I had no shame. I was very emotional, and we will get to more of that here in a bit. So I don't think we're going to get to all of them because that would keep you guys here listening to us blathering for 2.5, 3 hours, and we respect your time.
What I wanted to start off with, before we get to the movies, let's talk about some of the overarching themes that James Cameron uses. Also, maybe some brief talk on the actors that he uses repeatedly, because, man, I love it. I love his choices and the people that he chooses to work with over and over again. So one thing I wanted to talk about is his vision of the future. All of James Cameron's movies, they seem to all have a sci-fi element to them for the most part, and I like the way he thinks of the future. The future to him can be pretty, and it can be clean, and it can be spotless, as you see many, movies portray the future. But for the most part, it's dark, and it's gritty, and it's violent, and the things that plague human beings now, they still exist. We haven't gotten rid of any of that. Did you ever play the video game Portal?
I saw you play it many a time.
So Portal is a video game where you're like stuck in a testing facility, and when you start off the game Portal, it's very clean. Everything's very sanitized. It's very white. But as you progress in the game, these panels start popping off, and you see that behind the panels are the machines that make it work. And you thought you lived in this clean environment, in this clean future, but underneath the surface, it was dark and gritty, and there was a lot going on. You just never saw it. And I love that James Cameron kind of thinks that way. He's very high concept with all of his themes, but man, it's always dark. Even in Avatar, his latest work, it is very clean and pretty, and the technology is... we're not limited anymore by special effects. So he's able to make these nice, pretty computer screens and displays, but you still see the machines moving. You see things work. It's very mechanical. And that resonates more to me than like a clean, pretty future.
Correct, yeah. So what I noticed, kind of what you were saying, is all his films, every single one of them I was going over in my head, except for The Abyss, which I have not seen. So I'm a bit, once again, derelict in my duties. But he seems to want to uncover what... like you said, what's underneath, but pull the wool down, and really in every sense of the word. If you think about it, with Avatar, Pandora is not a perfect place. What's the plane? I always forget it in Aliens. They went there to colonize.
LV-246.
LV-246 was once thought to be an idealistic place. The wool is pulled down, even with the lavish worlds, the posh worlds in Titanic. They're not all what you think. Everything is not what it seems.
Right.
As that movie unfolds, that world slowly crumbles from under these people, quite literally.
That's kind of, I mean, on Titanic, I guess you have the upper deck of higher class, and everything's nice and pretty, but then the lower deck, you do have the machines, and it's not pretty. It's kind of the same thing. I never even thought about that, just in a different time period. Yeah,
and those people who are, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this, those people who are in the upper class, they're not always as pretty on the inside, so to speak, in terms of their souls and just with the kind of people that they are, rather than, and that's a common theme in films. The lower class typically are more jovial, kind-hearted people, good Samaritans, all that sort.
Right.
And that really transcends or goes across his entire filmography, as far as I'm concerned.
Let's talk about how he portrays women. I don't think there's another filmmaker who writes and directs and builds such strong female characters as him. I mean, is there?
He's the first one that comes to my mind. And that may be because he's one of the first filmmakers that I actually followed growing up. And I grew up with his films. And the first one, I will stick to this. It's probably for many years to come. Sarah Connor. Sarah Connor, she's the best. She is hands down my favorite female character that I can think of right now.
Sarah Connor has more balls than any man I know. Ellen Ripley is stronger than any man I know. Someone who quietly doesn't get any credit is Vasquez in Aliens, the Mexican chick. Mm-hmm. God, what a tough human being, man. I mean, it's just they exude more testosterone in these strong female characters, particularly in Aliens. And there's a lot of talk now about feminism and how women are portrayed, and it's like I don't think anyone ever really stopped and just gave James sure, you say Ellen Ripley's cool and she's a badass, but no one just stopped and gave James Cameron credit for writing such strong female characters
and directing them into giving such great performances. Granted, Sigourney Weaver is a fabulous actress, and she received actually an Oscar nomination for Best Actress for Aliens.
Yes. Who won that year? I guess she didn't get it.
She did not get it. I'm not sure who got it that year. I remember reading something about it, but I get it's kind of funny that I remember the person who lost because it's the movie that I like rather than somebody who's whatever. But I think she's definitely a stronger actress than Linda Hamilton. Has had a more pronounced career, but that does not take away from the overall, just the rawness to the Linda Hamilton performance.
For sure. Let's talk about his choice of movies and how he decides to do them. So, look, Michael Bay, friend of the show, no doubt. But man, I think James Cameron is a perfect example of. Sometimes I feel a little guilty because Transformers came out this last summer and the Ninja Turtles movie came out this last summer. So these are both Michael Bay babies projects. Not necessarily he didn't write and direct both of them, but sometimes I think I'm being a little bit too hard on people when I say don't go see that trash. It's not worth it. There's nothing wrong with a good summer block. I love it. I'm so excited about the Avengers, man. And there's a place in film for special effects and big spectacles, and I love the summer movies, man. I miss Big Willie Weekend. I miss it. But dude, I think that James Cameron is the perfect example of why we do not need Michael Bay's, because these movies that James Cameron has done, they are just as big as anything Michael Bay does these days. But they're good movies. They don't just fall back on special effects. I mean, they have the story. They have the characters. They genuinely care about these movies rather than these generic storylines, these generic characters, and we're going to slice in 10 cool action shots and we're done.
Right. But I will say about James Cameron, his scripts that he writes, particularly with Avatar and Titanic, his last two films, not so sharp. Definitely one of the weakest parts of the film.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. The dialogue is too on the nose. Some of it's good, but some of it just does not, it doesn't resonate. It doesn't have those, but are you really going into these movies looking for an amazing script?
Well, I'm going into any movie trying to get as much out of it as I possibly can.
Right.
Okay.
And
I'll take whatever I can get, but the more that they give me, the better, right?
Yeah, his stories, they're simple. They are. They're simple. And he's criticized for that. And people say that's his fatal flaw, if he had one. According to his box office, he doesn't. The numbers speak for themselves.
Sure, but look at Michael Bay and how much he makes. And pretty much anybody is going to agree that, man, those are not the best movies ever made.
Right. No, I will definitely think. There's an exception with Michael Bay, but with James Cameron, it's kind of the opposite. He may have one turkey or something like that, but most of his films are pretty great, and they're definitely going to stand the test of time. That is for sure.
So I personally am drawn to the types of movies he tries to do and the themes he tries to tackle. Do you think that he's an everyman's creator? For instance, my mom's probably really not going to like most James Cameron movies, right? Because the topics, aliens, my mom's not going to like it. So even though he's putting out good movies, she's not going to watch it. For sure, all men are pretty much that's kind of his bag, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really don't know, but I mean, you're not going to say with Titanic, that's the one I keep reverting back to. That one did have the most wide appeal. For sure.
And I just recall one point. I remember many, many years ago, I was having this really good conversation about movies and the best movies, and it was a deep conversation. And I threw Terminator 2 out there, which I think has a lot of really good themes, and I think it's one of the best action movies ever made. And we'll get into this. And I saw it was a lady that I was talking to about this. I saw her eyes just she left me. She was done with that conversation right there when I mentioned that movie, and that's not fair. That's not fair because, man, that movie and his movies really do have a lot to say. Just because of the subject matter doesn't mean that we're not tackling like big themes.
Right. He does. I mean, he is definitely going to try and reach as far as he possibly can. Probably further than any other filmmaker can because he has the patience to do so. Okay, he recently just pushed back Avatar 2 a whole year.
Did he?
Because the technology wasn't right. Yes, it was supposed to come out, I believe, December 2016, and now got pushed to December 2017, I believe. Maybe May, not quite sure. But point being is it was delayed. And so it's because it wasn't right. But once he gets that technology down, it's going to be a completely different world. Avatar 2 is going to be a completely different world.
Well, here's my worry. One of the most fun times I've had in my life, man, is when I was camping out for Star Wars prequel tickets. I think I was in 10th grade. Man, it was so much fun. And I've got all my tickets still framed. I think I saw all 3 of those movies, 10 times altogether. And I've got them all framed. Need to put up on the website. It's kind of cool. But I think one of the big problems George Lucas had in those movies, and we'll have a whole Star Wars episode coming up because obviously it's coming out this summer. His characters were very cold. They weren't well written. And I think George Lucas focused way too much on the technology, particularly there in the later years. And that doesn't make up for a bad script or bad acting or bad directing. Not at all. And are we worried that he's going to go that route? That he's so concerned with the technology and the visuals that the movie's going to suffer?
Look, so this is what I've heard about James Cameron on set. Obviously never been around the man, never been around his work. But they say that man can do that job just as good, if not better. Any job on set, just as good, if not better, than anybody. That he knows it all. He's got it down. He's got it down. I don't know how, but he does. He is a man. He's a perfectionist, and times I've heard that he's difficult to deal with, and he may not pay attention to the actors as much. But the man he has a vision, and he's going to make that vision no matter how much time it takes, and he's got the clout to do so, at least at this point.
And after Titanic,
he's had the clout. He's had it.
Yeah, I mean, after Titanic and Avatar, he's got the money to do and the money, right?
Yeah,
the man can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, I just find it fascinating that he doesn't, crank out these movies as fast as some of these other big time directors do. He's going to create something on his own, and that's something to speak for. It speaks for itself.
Let's run down the list, man. If you're ready, let's touch base on these movies. His big start was not his big start was Piranha Part 2, which I've never seen. I don't think have you seen that?
I haven't, but anytime I told somebody that I was doing a podcast devoted to James Cameron, they told me to watch Piranha 2: The Spawning.
Yeah. It says on IMDb screenplay as H.A. Milton, so that's a pretty cool pen name, H.A. Milton. I don't know. But The Terminator is the movie that got him on the radar. I was reading up on this, and he pretty much stole this concept from an episode of what's that? Not The Twilight Zone. What's that show called?
The Outer Limits?
Yeah, he pretty much stole this concept from The Outer Limits, and he stated that. And what we decided we were going to do, I've got so much to say about the Terminator franchise. We're going to talk about them, but we're going to kind of pull them out because I want to talk about them in detail last. But the Terminator, it really wasn't supposed to be a big hit movie, right? I mean, it was kind of a sleeper hit.
Very much so. Before I was born, but it was a sleeper hit. I mean, if you look at the overall aesthetic of the movie, it is gritty, and it has a look that is far different than its sequel. It has the film. It's dingy. It's gross. Is it in New York City or is it in L.A. where they're?
I think it's in L.A. It's very much a product of the '80s.
Okay.
And I really want to get into that. You can feel the 80s just oozing off that movie. And I think that that limits it more than most things.
Yeah, but it's brilliant. It does a fabulous job of world building. And if you can do that, as we saw with a film like John Wick, for example, which is getting a sequel, a small premise that builds a world very well. I mean, they made that movie, couldn't have been more at the time than like a $20 or $30 million budget. And that movie, it's still, the effects are dated, but in a really cool way that just seems so of its time, you know? And that's something to be said. And some of these movies, man, they don't hold up in that sense. And this one somehow does. Actually, the production budget I have now, I looked it up on Box Office Mojo, was $6.4 million. What that is now, I don't know. But
Right. I mean, it is obviously way more back then, but it's not a lot. That's not a summer blockbuster back then. What was the big movie? 83, right? Was the big awesome summer?
I think it was 82. It was whatever the year The Wrath of Khan came out.
Right on. I mean, those had to be big budgets. So he came into light with the Terminator, and it's kind of a sleeper hit. And that's what brought him into the industry, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So the next big movie that he did that everybody knows, and man, I'm really excited to have this conversation, is Aliens.
Right.
Okay. So we can't talk about Aliens without first talking about Alien. Okay. So let's talk about Alien a little bit. Ridley Scott directed. Ridley Scott write Alien as well? Do you know?
I don't think he actually wrote Alien. I'm not sure exactly who wrote it, but I don't think Ridley Scott wrote Alien.
So what's the crux of Alien? What's this movie about? What's the pacing?
Well, the pacing couldn't be any further different than what James Cameron, had in Aliens. This is a slow burn, I think, is an
extremely slow burn. And what I found watching it again for this episode, it's the anticipation, and it's the talking about the alien. You don't see the alien very much.
Mm-mm.
But everyone's worried, and they're talking about it, and that's where you really get this fear. It's kind of like there's one storytelling method in movies, or I'm not sure how to say this right, where you don't show what's happening. I think Quentin Tarantino said he uses this often. You pan away from it, or you pull off screen, and let their imagination do the work.
Right. But this movie was notorious for having a scene that showed it all, and that was the baby coming out of the stomach.
The chest burster scene, right, where they're eating dinner, and the alien comes out of his, and that at the time particularly was extremely violent.
Still is. It's still disgusting. It's still gut wrenching to see. And that movie had a pace that was deliberate. That it's one of the best paced thrillers / sci-fi films that I've ever seen.
Yeah, very much delayed gratification in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. They do spend a lot of time just talking and building it up. But man, when it delivers, when it punches hard.
It does. It does.
It punches real hard, and it totally validates all of the build-up and the slow burn that you were waiting for.
I dare say that the build-up is what I remember most about the film.
Yep. So in Alien, man, the soundtrack pulls me out of it quickly. It's very dated.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't feeling it. I think if they did like a special edition and they just redid the soundtrack, as much as I typically aren't, I wouldn't sign off for that. I think it would make it a little bit more timeless. The special effects were hard to do in Alien. I really think especially when it showed the full Alien, it doesn't hold up. That's not really anybody's fault except for it was 1977 or something like that.
79 is when it came out, so probably made around that time.
Sigourney Weaver's character in Alien, she's not a badass. She's
No,
not
not
a
at
badass.
all.
She spends most of the movie being pretty scared. Not to say she doesn't hold her own, but she's by no means the Ellen Ripley at the end of Aliens, is she?
No, she's not, and she's really not even the Ellen Ripley at the beginning of Aliens. She's very sad and confused at the beginning of Aliens.
So do you think that was James Cameron's conscious decision to take this character and build strength out of it?
I think that's probably what he's gravitating towards. I think just because that's his where his abilities lie. In a sense, maybe he did it subconsciously, and maybe he just saw something out of that. He probably didn't know exactly what angle he would take. Maybe it took on a life of its own. You just don't know. Maybe it was his collaboration with Sigourney Weaver. They obviously work well together. They've worked together all the way up into Avatar. She hasn't been in every film of his,
Right.
but they still are apparently in contact, and
Well, he didn't have to pick Ellen Ripley as the strongest person in the movie, because in Aliens, she's surrounded by like 10 Space Marines. Now, out of all the Marines, Space Marines are the toughest of Marines. You have to know that. I mean, she's surrounded by nothing but testosterone and machismo, and like he still chose to pull her out as the toughest character at the very, very end.
yeah, I mean, he was playing with gender identities and gender roles before that was, more prevalent in writing and in film, and just before people really had the conversation going about that. It just wasn't. It wasn't seen. It was always the tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy saving the day.
Right.
It's how it was, and she broke the mold, man. She killed it. She was incredible. I'm absolutely incredible. I had forgotten how good she was in this movie, and this was only the second time I had seen this film. I think I saw it once. Oh man, probably 6 years ago. I'd maybe rented it on Netflix or something like that. Whenever you got DVDs in the mail those
Right.
days.
Last few points I noticed about Alien. I want to make sure we touch on these so that we can discuss the differences in the second movie. Mm-hmm. For me, Alien, I mean, there was the build-up, but then the most satisfying scene to me was the end, man, when she set the self-alarm, and it's her just running through the hallways. You're scared. She's scared. She goes back for the cat. Very maternal, very maternal type instinct. She didn't have to. Man, would you go back for a cat?
No.
I mean, we would you go back for Maya?
My dog, yeah. Oh man. I don't know. Yeah, yes, I would say yes, but I have a likeness towards animals. It's my soft spot. But with Aliens, she is surrounded by these males, and what do they find? They find a little girl who has lost her family on planet
LV-246.
Okay, they were killed by a bunch of xenomorphs, which are the aliens.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they went there to figure out why the signal is lost on this planet, because they were harvesting some sort of, the company that she had been working for they were trying to harvest some sort of minerals. I'm not quite sure. But, so with that being said, that kind of draws upon another theme, corporations. Same with Avatar. It even goes into True Lies.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, it's just this big organization of spies,
But see, corporations, I think, man, this is great. I never even thought about this before. And I'm going to touch base on this big time with Terminator 2. And this goes back to his themes of mechanics and machines and things being cold.
Mm-hmm.
What else is cold in a machine? Corporations are, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's always a representative of that. In this film, it's Paul Reiser, which he has a very good turn, and he's a normal comedic type, and he plays, this bureaucratic kind of sleazebag who is kind of playing like a wrangler to Ripley, and they have a really good push and pull throughout the entire film until, something may or may not happen between the two of them in a really, really satisfying set piece. Really satisfying. And that cast, there's somebody that we haven't even talked about, and I'm sorry, listeners, for jumping around here a little bit with these different actors, and we can table it. But Bill Paxton.
Oh, dude, Bill Paxton. I mean,
Bill Paxton.
What is there to say about Bill? I mean, good Lord.
He steals it in this movie. He has some very good freak-out scenes, along with, the resident male badass played by Michael Biehn, who played Kyle Reese in Terminator.
Yep.
He plays her superior officer in a very, very good role. There's not a lot of flaws to this film.
Well, so I can't imagine, when you think about Alien, and you think about what the movie is, and then how do you make a sequel to that? Okay?
Right.
And when you do, how do you make a successful sequel? I don't think anyone would have really made the choices that James Cameron did at all. They would have tried to replicate the first movie, which, by the way, Alien 3 and Alien 4 both tried to do, and I think they more or less failed.
Right.
They tried to, James Cameron's like, you know what? We're gonna kind of go opposite of this. We're gonna go big.
He does go big.
It is the same themes, but it's big. Right.
It's one of the few sequels that actually raises the stakes successfully on nearly every level.
I think the Alien So going back to making a successful sequel to this movie, it shows you how good James Cameron is, because I don't think there has been a successful movie. I believe history has shown that there has not been a great sequel to either the Alien movies or the AVP, the Alien versus Predator movies. I think the Alien movie sequels have more tried to imitate the first movie, and the Alien versus Predator movies have tried to go bigger, and they've tried to imitate Aliens. You know, there's more action, of course, mainly probably because they threw the Predators in there. But there hasn't been a good movie, a good, great movie. I mean, not that they haven't been enjoyable on some level, but it gets no better than Aliens, I don't think, in this franchise.
I did enjoy. This is a film that had people torn, but I enjoyed Prometheus a great deal, which was Ridley Scott's return to the franchise.
Yep, and that's what, next year, right? We're getting a second Prometheus. Is that right?
I can't wait. That movie's full of flaws, but it is gorgeous, gorgeous film.
Those scenes of just the ship like landing, and you're seeing like the deck. It's beautiful, man. Well, so let's really get into Aliens now. Okay. I know we spent too much time talking about Alien. Okay. First thing I think is cool. Someone mentioned this on Reddit. In the very first scene of Aliens, look in the door. You can still see the spear gun stuck from where she shot the first one out the door.
Oh, wow.
What happens is an Alien, she shoots him out the door and then the door closes. You can still see the spear gun stuck in Aliens. It's pretty cool. It just shows attention to detail.
Right. Wow, that's fascinating.
The intro to Alien is very cool. I love it. It shows the coldness of space, and it takes a long time to do it. It just shows nothing but a spaceship, scene after scene of a spaceship. And these people have been in hypersleep or whatever you want to call it for years, okay? And you're looking at a spaceship that has been on autopilot and unattended to, and they take a long time. Even just it starts doing the A and then the L, and it slowly brings it in. Well, Aliens does this too. James Cameron always uses recurring themes and even lines, quite often the same lines in his sequels. Aliens does the same type of intro. It opens with the coldness of space, hypersleep. You always see a computer flip on. But what James Cameron does is he does the same thing, but it's much quicker. Whereas it took 3 or 4 minutes in Alien, he does it in like 1:15 seconds. And, well, first of all, he's got a lot to cram in there. But I think what it kind of speaks to, this is going to be the same movie, and it's going to be the same themes, but we're going to do it my way. We're going to do it quicker, and we're going to get a lot more done in that same amount of time.
Yep, this ain't your mama's Space Tale, I guess, is what he's saying. Like, this isn't, he's playing for keeps.
I think that Aliens is almost a perfect movie, man.
I would agree.
It's easy to say it on this type of movie, though, because it's not going to deal with particularly sophisticated dialogue. Aliens is the ultimate badass movie, man. This would easily rival Die Hard in the badass pantheon, I think, if it wasn't a female lead. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Now that I've just seen this about a week ago now, there wasn't much I would remove from the movie. There's not much that would... I can't think of it, so I don't know why I'm even trying to fight that notion.
Well, it might seem like he's wasting time, but everything he does has a purpose, and there's always a place. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. Aliens spends the first 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I mean, you don't see an alien, man, for a long way into the movie, just like the first movie. But what he's doing that whole time, man, dude, those whole scenes in the beginning with the Marines, just all you think, oh, they're just being macho men and they're just showing off. But no, it's really kind of setting the tone. And it's telling you about the characters, and he's doing a lot of foreshadowing. I mean, every scene in the beginning, it pretty much goes, he's going, scene, and then it just kind of backtracks, and you're hitting the same spots on the set, the same scenes, but there's something else going on. I mean, because you start off in the hangar bay, you got the foreshadowing with the loader, which is super cool. Super cool shot of the futuristic Reebok sneakers. And then they go into the hive, and then they go right back, and it's the same places. So the movie's always doing something, and it's always telling you something you need to know for the payoff. He does a great job with it. Right.
The biggest example I can think of that was the facehugger scene at the beginning. The facehuggers are in those test tubes, if you will, those man-sized test tubes, and Paul Reiser's character comments on them. And then later they come into effect in a really terrifying scene, very terrifying scene. Whew.
Would you
Man,
say
very
Would you
good.
say there's more suspense in Alien or Aliens?
Alien.
Really?
Absolutely.
I think
Doesn't mean
there's
it's a better movie, but more suspense.
I think there's more suspense if you're willing to slow down and really take it in. I think Aliens more easily hands it to you. My girlfriend made the comment that she is more suspenseful in Aliens, particularly the scene where the facehugger's trying to get her and Newt. And I agree, man. Aliens is more digestible of a movie, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, it is a more digestible movie. But you don't really need. I mean, do you really need Alien to see Aliens?
No, you don't. And I think that's just another testament to how good of a movie it is.
It is. It's a standalone film, hands down, standalone film. Then that means it is that great of a film.
Bishop, the android Bishop, is one of my favorite characters, I think, in any movie. What I like about Bishop, I like characters. Everyone likes these anti-heroes. You're conflicted, inside. I am drawn to, and I love the characters who know what they are, what they want, and you cannot test their resolve. Okay? The other great example I have for this is No Country for Old Men. Javier Bardem's character in No Country for Old Men is very much the same. You cannot change his resolve. You cannot change what he's going to do. He is an unstoppable force, and he is going to continue to keep moving. Bishop is very much the same. He's not as big, but Bishop is the most reliable person in that movie, and Sigourney Weaver's character starts off not trusting him because of the first movie.
Indeed.
But at the end, and particularly when you go to Alien 3, you see that she has seen that this is, hands down, the best, most reliable friend she could ever have. I love his character, man. First of all, who's the actor, man? I love that actor.
Lance Henriksen?
Lance Henriksen. God, what a beautiful man. He's in Terminator 1. He plays the detective.
He does.
I love that James Cameron uses him. I would love to see him maybe in the next Avatar or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't seen the third one. I just have a quick question about it. There is an android in Alien 3?
Well, so Alien 3, man, and I know we're going long on we'll let it go here pretty quick. Alien 3 is extremely sad because it opens with, first of all, they try to harken back to the first movie. It's not big at all. Alien 3 opens with, surprise, surprise, there was a malfunction on Sigourney Weaver's ship and it crashed to a prison planet full of men. So Hicks and Newt died in the crash, so it's just Sigourney Weaver. I don't think it's a good movie for many reasons. They tried. But what I love about Alien 3 is that, of course, Bishop was in the ship as well. So what Sigourney does is she powers Bishop up for like 5 minutes to talk to him. It's really cool. It's a really cool scene.
Okay.
And you get 5 minutes of Bishop, man, which makes me happy. Like
Okay.
I love Bishop, man.
Bishop. Yep, absolutely. He even resembles like a Terminator type character in a certain sense, as you were kind of alluding to.
Yeah, I mean, a Terminator you cannot test its resolve, right?
You cannot. His specifications are carefully modulated, and there's no turning them. No turning them either way.
So after Aliens was The Abyss.
We didn't see it.
I haven't seen The Abyss for many, many years. It gets a really good review on IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes. A lot of the technology that went into The Abyss was actually used in Terminator 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I can see that.
Particularly with the
water and
T-1000.
liquid metal.
Exactly. I wonder if that actually influenced what his screenplay was going to be for Terminator 2, or is just a coincidence. That's an interesting thing to think about.
Interesting. I need to see it. It does have Ed Harris and some very good actors. Michael Biehn, once again, a favorite of Mr. Cameron.
Yeah. I once again, it's been a long time, but it is a good movie. It's a solid movie. It's very long. It's just a solid sci-fi movie. I don't recall it having very many faults or anything. It's not going to rock your world. It's not the movie that everyone's going to remember him by, but it's hands down a very solid entry into his pantheon.
No doubt. I bet.
So then we get into 1991. We're going to pull this out of the conversation to talk about it here at the end. Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I think we both kind of agreed after rolling through James Cameron this last week, this has got to be one of the greatest action movies ever made. What do you think?
Man, that's a tough question to ask, but I'm going to have to say it is. It is the best.
It's always scary to kind of make those statements, right?
It is scary to make those statements.
And I understand, like in your line of work, you have to be careful about making statements like that.
You do publicly, but we keep it candid here. We're among friends. We're among tons of friends.
Yeah.
And after today, James Cameron, he's a friend of the show. He's a friend of the show.
Oh, hands down.
And certainly will be a friend of mine until the day I go 6 feet underground for making this film. It is an astounding achievement that has stood the test of time on every single level. There is not one thing I could change about this film, except a thing I will mention, hopefully, we'll have time for.
Sure, yeah. So we'll come back to this. So the next two movies, Cole, I did not get a chance to watch again as we were preparing for this podcast, and you did, and I'm envious. So hit us off.
Oh, geez. True Lies, 1994. It's a year. We got Pulp Fiction. We got Shawshank Redemption. We got Forrest Gump.
Dude, that is a strong year. I never even thought about that.
It is a strong year. This movie made $375 million worldwide. 61% of that was international box office. And I'll tell you why that's interesting to me here in a second. This film seems like it prophesied international terrorism, but it did it in a hilarious way. It was a very funny movie. Schwarzenegger teams up with Tom Arnold. They're spies. He's got Jamie Lee Curtis at home. She doesn't know he's a spy. She finds out one way or another, which we won't spoil in case you haven't seen it, even though the film is, 21 years old now, and you should have seen it anyway. So
21 years.
If you're a film fan and you haven't seen this movie, what are you doing? At the second, just go and pause the podcast, go watch True Lies, and then come back to us. Just go buy the Blu-ray, the DVD, buy it off iTunes, whatever. See this film.
So this is a very digestible movie for everyone, right?
Absolutely. I couldn't think of one. I mean, there's obviously going to be people out there that don't like this film. This one is, it's one that I hold in very high regard from my childhood. It is the quintessential movie of the 90s, action movie that I think about. That's what I think about when I think of action 90s movies. Arnold is, keep in mind, he's like 46 at the time, so he's not a young guy. He is completely playing into a parody of himself in every way possible in the most fun way. Loved it. His comedic timing is brilliant. And he also is a complete badass. I mean, of course, he's Arnold.
Right.
He's Arnold.
But
so
it's you're right. It does it with satire, but while it's satirizing itself, it's also being badass at the same time.
It is being badass. It's just funny to think that these international terrorists, these Middle Eastern terrorists, was the subject of, the bad guy in these films. It was always like, you think of like Gruber from Die Hard and these guys, they're always these, European guys, these posh guys. This dude is he's a terrorist. He videotapes things and whatnot. Maybe it wasn't such a big of a prophecy as I'm getting credit for, because we had already entered in, 1991 with the Iraqi freedom, the first Iraqi war. I'm not sure what it was called, but that's neither here nor there. But this movie, man, it's
so much fun, right?
It's fun, and that's all there is to it. It's fun. Arnold has lines like the beginning, or in the middle of the film in a bathroom, he gets in a fight with a guy, and he throws him into a urinal and he flushes the toilet and says, "Cool off,"
which was cool in True Lies, but not Batman 4.
No,
got a little old in that one. But so yes, if you just have to pick a James Cameron movie to show somebody, you don't know who, you're going to have to pick True Lies because it's the most accessible to everybody. It's got action, it's funny. Jamie Lee Curtis, another strong woman in the end.
Absolutely.
She starts off being meek, and then she's so strong by the end of the movie. That's that scene of her stripping it really is one of those classic movie scenes. I don't think it gets enough love with the other ones. It's a great scene, and everybody does a great job, and it's funny and sexy at the same time.
It is. It's a really empowering scene for her as well, because yes, it's showcasing her body, not in a way where it's a gawking, even though Arnold is getting pleasure out of seeing it, but he's completely captivated. He's falling in love with his wife again.
Right. And that's all over. Right. And it's beautiful. And I think if we showed our moms that, they would love that part for that. See, the women would take that out of that scene, whereas the men would just be like, "Oh man, Jamie Lee Curtis has got a nice booty,"
Right. Yeah. It's good. If you haven't seen it, you got to. You got to. It's special.
And hey,
it is a special film.
Tom Arnold, right?
Tom Arnold. He says one of my favorite lines. Elijah Dushku, who plays Arnold's daughter, is running out of the house wearing a motorcycle helmet, and he says, "I remember the first time I was shot out of a cannon," and my 7-year-old self or 10-year-old self, however old I was, just laughed his ass off, and here I am, 20 years later, still laughing my ass off at that line. It's
funny anecdote, man. Our friend Cody, who we watched a lot of movies with in the past, he always talks about the night that his dad had the sex talk with him. You know, they're men. They had the sex talk, and then they watched True Lies together. Like, his mom left the house, you know, like it was men's night, you know, and they had to talk about sex, and then they watched True Lies, and I was like, man, what like a that just tells you like it's a man movie, you know, but it's for everybody. This movie is a delight, no doubt.
A delight, definitely. And the next one is 3 years later, and that was Titanic. That one. You know, it's the movie that the women are going to love. And the men, you know, they could have some stuff to enjoy out of it as well. I consider myself a romantic guy. I played into a little bit of the romantic beats they had. You know, it's ham-fisted. The dialogue is slight. But once again, it's told from the perspective of a female. When they go into the story of the Titanic, it's being told by Rose. Okay. You know, they frame it, you know, as Bill Paxton once again, who is in a small role. He's at the bookends of the film, but man, he makes a really he does a good performance. It's cool, but you know, it's told by a 90-year-old woman, and so it's her memories of this, and it doesn't just I mean, you know, that's what everyone remembers is the romance, but they really don't take into account the harrowing scenes of Jack and Rose trying to find their way out of the Titanic.
Is the suspense still there? Like, I don't remember much.
Oh, yes, it is. Everybody knows what happened to Jack. But there's a scene where he's handcuffed for a good portion of the film to a pipe while the boat is flooding. And I still was... I had not seen this movie probably since my Deluxe 2 tape VHS. I hadn't seen it in a very long time. It got to me. And Leo, he's got the goods, obviously. He's got the charisma. Kate Winslet, she was nominated for Best Actress. I don't think Leo was nominated for Best Actor. He hasn't. Neither one of them certainly won it, but this film won Best Picture. And it's a sweet movie. It ends on a very sweet note, and I was surprisingly moved by it. My Heart Will Go On at the end. This film has a lot of flaws though, and it is the dialogue. It is a lot of the cheesy stuff. Some of it doesn't work, but the stuff that does work plays to Cameron's strengths.
I think this is interesting to watch. Once again, James Cameron is leveraging technology for production value. And I think this is a good example of how he can navigate the waters in any area and really be successful. The technology definitely served this movie because you're able to get these nice big sweeping shots of the Titanic, which you otherwise really wouldn't be able to get, you know. It really did serve the movie. I think. Yeah. It added to it.
Yeah, it has a purpose. And I don't like it when people say, the ship was a character in itself. Like, I don't, New York, it was such a character in that movie. Yeah, and it's like, you know, like, come on. Yeah. Really, you know, but yeah, the ship, I mean, it has a presence and a gravitas, and they build it up really well. You know, it sinks and 1,200 people die, but
I think if we took the Celine Dion song out of it, I think like if that wasn't such a big deal, because that was also on the radio at the time all the time.
Yeah, it was massive.
That movie would be 19% less cheesy. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of worked for me because I hadn't heard the song in so long.
Right.
But you know, nobody talks about Titanic. They had a 3D re-release of the IMAX recently, and you know, I think it did pretty well. I'm not quite sure. I didn't see it. You know, I mean, it is what it is. It's a romantic storyline on a big boat, and it's got some good set pieces. You know, it did affect me emotionally at the end. It's got some good stuff, man. And you know,
how's the acting?
Kate Winslet and Leo are fantastic. I mean, they are, and you have a lot of really good side characters as well in the film. You know, Billy Zane is in it. Kathy Bates is in it. You know, she plays this.
Yeah, she's great. She's a great actress, man.
Foul-mouthed, aristocratic woman.
Yeah.
You know, we mentioned Bill Paxton, and the captain I'll briefly talk about of it is played by a guy named Bernard Hill, which I didn't realize is Theoden in the Lord of the Rings series.
Oh, cool, man.
I didn't notice that. And then you have, let's see, Victor Garber. He's a really good character actor. You might notice if you looked him up. And there's a guy, I noticed him. He plays, I believe, Lovejoy, which is Billy Zane's bodyguard, like his right-hand man. And it's the guy that plays the scientist from TGRI in Terminator 2.
I love you, Cole. I love you so much right now.
Oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. I had it written down.
Disposed.
But yeah, I mean, it's got some really good. David Warner, that's his name.
Okay.
David Warner. Yeah, he's in it, and he's a badass. He punches Leonardo DiCaprio in the stomach, and leaves him for dead. It's good stuff. It's got some good set pieces in it, man. It's a good film. It's it's not one that's gonna knock your socks off on every level, but watching it, after having seen it after over a decade, it's great. It was fun.
Is it safe to say that this was largely made because James Cameron? It's no secret he loves the ocean.
Yeah, he does,
which is a great inspiration for The Abyss. Well, he's always been a huge fan of the Titanic, and I think he holds the record for the human being on planet Earth to go the deepest in the ocean. He's been the deepest down in the Marianas Trench or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think he had that documentary come out about it last summer.
Yep. And he's done documentaries on the Titanic and all that stuff. So he loves the ocean, and that's neat. I think that's cool.
Oh,
so Titanic happens. And it's a thing, and I think we're glad.
It's a zeitgeist. It is a cultural zeitgeist without a shadow of a doubt.
For sure. And then James Cameron is quiet for how many years?
12.
12 years goes by. Why do you think that is?
Man.
Let me rephrase that.
Okay.
12 years goes by without a giant James Cameron movie. The man stayed busy. I mean, he was working on a lot of the ocean stuff, the oceanography stuff, and documentaries.
Yeah, I believe he was working on maybe a few TV shows as well. Didn't he do maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe this is just a crapshoot, but Birds of Prey for WB, the
Close.
The show.
I'm seeing here he did one episode of Dark Angel.
Dark
Same
Angel,
stuff.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
He created Dark Angel for that vehicle for Jessica Alba. That's what it was.
Yep.
So, and I don't think, that probably didn't keep him incredibly busy, but, he probably was working on the technology for Avatar. I mean, this is a huge film. I mean, it's massive.
Yep. So Avatar is the next one, and Avatar was what, 2009?
2009. Okay.
So everyone's like, man. I mean, were you excited James Cameron was coming back?
I was aware. I wasn't. There was a lot of talk because we were wondering, was this going to work? This is when Marvel was coming up. The Marvel Cinematic Universe was coming up. Comic book movies had already been at the forefront. This was a completely original franchise from the mind of one man with no prior, baggage, no backstory, nothing that people can gravitate to. Mm-hmm. So people were thinking nobody was going to see it. And it did not have a very good opening. It came out at holiday season 2009. I remember seeing it the first showing opening day. I did. But it had a very modest opening. I believe it was $27 million, but it built. It kept that momentum up from months and months to months and is now the highest grossing movie of all time.
Well, so I want to start off saying all this. I did not enjoy this movie when I first saw it.
Okay.
Obviously, I was following it as it was coming out, all the web videos and little featurettes and things. But what was turning me off to this movie was kind of what I touched base on earlier. I love his vision of the future and sci-fi. It's dark. It's gritty. And then, now he's throwing me into this world of plants and blue people. Are you kidding me? I don't care how pretty this is. James Cameron, I want what you're good at. I want the violence. I want, because not many people take sci-fi seriously, right? Traditionally. I mean, now that's kind of changed. But, it's always kind of been a joke, or campy. And James Cameron's like, nope. This is violent, and this is gritty, and this is what sci-fi can be. And Avatar was just so pretty, and it is pretty.
It's beautiful. You commented on your viewing experience with it. How did you watch it again on a 4K television?
Well, just recently I did. But in the theaters I did the same thing everybody else did. The big deal about this movie was wasn't it the first big 3D movie?
The 3D technology was created specifically for it, and all the motion capture was made specifically for the movie. So if you saw it in IMAX 3D, you probably got a fantastic experience, which I certainly did. I haven't seen it.
Well, I specifically remember, news stories, like theaters were having to change out their projectors specifically for this movie.
Oh, wow.
I remember all these stories, and that's true. I mean, not just for this movie, but like if you want to show this movie how it's supposed to be, you're going to have to change out these projectors. Oh, by the way, also, this is what we're going to use for the next 10 years. So, like, you have to do it. But I will still contend that the reason this movie made so much money is purely because of the 3D gimmick. And I'm not going to say, I don't mean to be an ass when I say the 3D gimmick, because I think it can definitely bring something. But I don't think the story carried this movie. I think it's the visuals is why why it kept going. Because people like my dad, who would never watch these types of movies, he came out and he literally said that's the best movie I've ever seen. And I was like, no way. I know why you're saying this.
Yeah, the story is, frankly, and the acting is pretty damn weak, aside from a couple characters like Giovanni Ribisi. Sam Worthington is not a very good lead, in my opinion. He doesn't do it for me.
They tried him out for a few years, didn't they? And it just kind of didn't work out. Man,
he just doesn't. No, he doesn't have it. He does not have the goods. The story is, it's decent. It's familiar. It's not, but it is the visuals and the set pieces. Zoe Saldana's the one that steals the show.
That's the big criticism, right? Is that the story is so generic.
It is generic. It's Fern Gully is what people were calling it.
That's funny. That's what my girlfriend was saying this last weekend, and like she didn't just read that. Like that's what everybody says, minus Robin Williams as Batty.
Yeah.
As we discussed the director we were going to do, and I'm so happy we picked James Cameron, man. Has it not been a fun week and a half?
Yeah, it was amazing. I had not seen these films in a very long time. That's why it was so perfect. It was such a larger than life director and a monumentous task to condense his work into one podcast. I mean, it's a tough task. I mean, it's difficult to really encapsulate everything that he does. It's so right.
Well, so I got a 4K TV for Christmas this last year. There's really not a lot of 4K content out there. If you want 4K, you pretty much have to stream it from Netflix, with a few exceptions. That being said, when you put a 1080p Blu-ray on this TV, it is frickin' beautiful, man. It is beautiful. And I have about 1,200 DVDs, but I don't have a lot of Blu-rays. I've got maybe 40.
Okay.
But I told myself, hey, if we're going to do James Cameron, man, I want to see this as beautiful as it's going to get. If we were doing some character act, if we're doing Kevin Smith, or some artsy director, whatever, I'll watch that on anything. I don't care. But I went to Best Buy, and I was like, I'm going to load up on some James Cameron, which, by the way, I was not sad about this.
Okay.
First of all, I just want to say, Best Buy, you suck, because you did not have Terminator 2 on Blu-ray, and that is the saddest thing I've ever heard in my life, dude. Like, it is the quintessential action movie. It is the pepperoni pizza of action movies, and you did not have it. You fail miserably.
Yeah, their selection is terrible. I was actually there today and bought a Blu-ray, and their selection was very meager.
What'd you get, man?
This is 101 Dalmatians.
Okay, all right.
I collect Disney movies. Okay,
that's cool.
So,
no, that's very cool. Well, but they did have this nice, big, fat, $35 Avatar Extended Cut 3D Blu-ray, blah, blah, blah. And first I was like, man, I'm not buying this. This movie sucks. This is not a good movie. Everybody went and saw it for the gimmick of 3D and the visuals. I'm not, but I did. That's actually the only movie I walked out of Best Buy buying. And I said, well, okay, if people are watching this for the visuals, I'm going to watch it for the visuals again. I'm going to make it as pretty as I possibly can, and let's see what I can take away from it. Man, I was pleasantly surprised. I enjoyed the hell out of that movie. I enjoyed that movie, watching that. And I'm so glad we're doing this so I could watch that again. The storyline is very generic, but the way he does it is not necessarily generic. I mean, sure, the bare bones are standard plot, but I mean, the little subtleties here and there and just the little additions, like he did jazz that sucker up. I mean, there's a lot going on there, and there are a lot of big themes that he's tackling, and we've all seen it before, but what have we not seen before? Everything's already been done. Okay. I am back on the Avatar bandwagon. I enjoy that movie. It's beautiful. And yes, it has a lot of flaws, but you know what? This is a movie that when they do release a 4K version, and I do get a 90-inch TV one day, I will watch this movie again with the surround sound on and the 90-inch TV, and I will enjoy it again, but that's probably the only next time I'm going to watch it.
Right, yeah. It's not a movie that you really want to revisit too often. Definitely not. But it is. It has a It has a place in cinematic history. I mean, it's we keep talking about this because of what his accolades he has in this department, but the gross. I mean, that many people saw $2.7 billion worldwide.
But here's where we're really going to learn what caused that, and I'm always going to say it was the 3D. His next 3 movies that he's working on, that he's doing, are Avatar 2, 3, and 4. All right. So the argument, if the storyline was that stock on the first one, what does he have to say in 3 more movies?
Well, he's going to go to the oceans, I think the mountains, and I don't know what else. Maybe space again? I don't know. I'm not sure, but I know they're going to be all in different settings.
Have they released... Oh, so it's not necessarily on...
Pandora. It's different parts of Pandora.
Okay.
It's not going to be the same setting. It's going to be a whole new world.
That's
why it's taking so long. Yeah, it's going to be. It should be interesting. I'm excited for it. Especially since he's taken the time to do it. He doesn't have anybody. He probably does actually have people rushing him, but he's James Cameron.
Well, so here's the deal. He's not a super old man, but he's not a super young man.
61.
Okay. How do we feel about such an awesome creator and what he's been able to bring to the world? Do we want him spending his last movie-making years on Avatar?
Sure, why not? That's what you want to do, man. You're doing something original. He's not making the next Spider-Man movie. He's not jumping on the bandwagon of all something original. I mean, it's going to be something, it's going to be something different. It just is. We've talked about his films. They all have these underlining themes, but they're also widely different from each other. Would
you rather him do another Avatar or something more along the lines of True Lies?
It's tough. Probably I'd stick to your guns and go with Avatar because he raised the sequel. He's going to raise the level up. Look at the sequels he's directed.
Well, see, that's the one thing I'm really excited about, right?
The sequel's always better with him.
I'm excited. And then also there's a movie called Battle Angel, which is another like Android type movie. I think it's based on an anime. I hate those guys. Kotakus.
But if you want to listen to our podcast, please do.
Yeah. All right, so let's drive this home, man. But let's do it as big as we can. Let's talk Terminator. Let's talk the Terminator series. What was your first foray into the Terminator, Cole? What was your first experience with that franchise?
Terminator 2, movie channels, early 90s. Me, young kid, sitting in a living room, jaw dropped, wondering what the hell am I watching?
That was a very similar experience for me as well. This movie was burned into my mind as a young child. I remember it was my birthday. I was like 8 or 9. I was very young. And I had your parents are like, you can invite 3 friends over to spend the night, for your birthday. And that's what we did, man. And I got a few Nintendo games. And that night, because I was a man now, and it was my birthday, my dad let us watch Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which is one of the most violent and cold movies I have ever seen to this day. It is extremely violent, and that movie seared itself into my brain. I will never be able to get rid of that. I was scared. I was enthralled. I was horrified. My little brain could not tackle that movie. And to this day, this movie, for being an action movie, is not light on themes. Man, it tackles such big ideas. This movie will forever. This is the first movie I pretty much buy every time I get on a new format. First DVD I ever bought. I just told you about how I couldn't find it on Blu-ray, so obviously that didn't happen. But man, this is a big one for me. But of course, it's the second movie in this series. So let's talk Terminator a little bit. What are your thoughts on the first Terminator?
It's good. It's very good. It's a very, very good action movie. It's effective on a different level than Terminator 2. The action is good. It's a little more gripping in terms of how close range it is. Terminator 2 is more like a machine gun, while this one is like more of a shotgun, and so to speak. It's very, very close quarters. Really plays with that a lot, rather than because both of them are essentially chase films, start to finish.
You're right, and
but entirely different films, I would say.
I feel that so Terminator is very much stuck in the 80s, and I think that the soundtrack. So tell me, is there a term for this? There's film noir, and there's all these different styles and genre of film. What is the name for those 80s movies? Dude, the 80s, every movie from there, it looks dark. I think because they were filming on tape or something cheaper. Yeah. The lighting wasn't as good. Every 80s movie is very dark, and they don't do the dark scenes very well. And then you get the cheesy synthesizer music.
But it's good. It's so good.
To me, it really does bring me home. It's cheesy, but like I get a warm feeling whenever an 80s movie comes on. And that's probably just because I grew up in it. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it has the same, it kind of like we talked about Terminator or like RoboCop, something like that. They have the same gritty, dirty feel. It's just, our flagship city is New York City. And in the 80s, this when New York City was just horrible, dingy, gross. There's graffiti everywhere. Crime was high. It was a time, it was just kind of a sad time in the 80s. People were down, I think we were in the midst of the Cold War and stuff like that. So the films reflected that, to a certain extent. They had to. They had to have some type of effect on what was the products that were being put out. I mean, you see, like I just mentioned, RoboCop, and Terminator, both these have to do with these corporations that kind of, take over and, are the use of machinery. And, it's kind of technophobia in a way. I think we're scared of that.
Two good examples of kind of what I'm trying to describe, and I'm not good at it, with just the 80s feel and the theme. There's a really good Kickstarter movie that got funded that's coming out called Kung Fury. So if you have not seen that, check out the trailer, and it's the dark 80s, the cheesy synth. Also, there was a game that came out, I think, last year, the year before. It was Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. It's my game of the year for that year. And this also perfectly captures the cheesiness and just the darkness of the 80s. And I'm eternally trying to recapture that because for some reason that feel gives me a warm fuzzy inside. Like I genuinely enjoy watching those movies. But at the same time I realize it's just horrible filmmaking for the most part. But Terminator, what are the themes in Terminator? I mean, it's a chase movie. It's about the future, of course. Taking control of the future.
Technophobia is the thing that comes to my mind first.
That's a good one, particularly at that time, right?
Yeah,
because everything's coming online.
It's about humanity too. If you want to just get down to it, James Cameron's interested in humanity, and even in the first one, the titular character played by Arnold is completely void of any humanity. Nothing. There's nothing there.
That's a good point.
And he's terrifying. He's utterly terrifying with that shotgun in that movie.
He is very interested in humanity, and the way he shows that is by going the total opposite direction, showing zero humanity. This is a cold movie.
Yeah, and the second one, Judgment Day, just instantly enters in that dichotomy. Arnold now has been reprogrammed by John Connor and has a certain sense of humanity, or at least, they want you to believe that. And then you have maybe one of the most iconic baddie roles, very few lines of dialogue for Robert Patrick as T-1000, void of all humanity.
So obviously the budget got much higher, and the special effects got that much higher. I read a really good featurette last year talking about, and we missed this, me and you missed this because we're too young. Mm-hmm. Originally, you were not supposed to know who is the good guy and who is the bad guy in Terminator 2 until that hallway scene.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yes, so think about this, okay?
Whoa!
Think about this. They spend... So even when a Terminator is a good guy, he's very violent and cold. Arnold is the good guy in the movie, but he's got no problem killing people until John Connor tells him not to. And it's not... He's just a machine. He's just a machine. So... In Terminator 2, you're supposed to spend the first 20, 30 minutes not knowing which one of those Terminators is good, which one is bad. Maybe they're both bad. You don't know this until the hallway scene. And actually, you probably think it's Arnold for a couple of reasons. First of all, Arnold was the bad guy in the first movie. Second of all, the T-1000 assumes the role of a cop. That's you're going to think he's good, okay? What ruined this was the trailer. The trailer actually told them who was good and who was bad. So the production studio or whoever cut that trailer ruined that movie for so many people because you're not supposed to know who's good and who's bad until... So think about how much better of a movie that makes that. Even just taking that first 20 minutes. Think about that. Is that not genius?
It is genius. That's why I freaked out when you told me that. I've never heard that before. That's incredible because that scene is so powerful on its own. We're talking about in the hallway with Sarah Connor, correct? And Arnold comes out from behind him.
We're talking about in the hallway at the mall.
At the mall.
When they first get John. Because that's a great scene because John's running the hallway. He's running from the T-1000 who he thinks is a cop. And then you see Arnold come in. And so your brain, your brain in 1980, 1991 is like, oh, well, Arnold's the bad guy. Man, John's screwed. Arnold's going to get him. Nope. Arnold turns, protects him, takes the bullet shots, kicks down the door, and then takes him to safety.
Can we just stop recording and I can just go watch this again, like the whole movie, please?
You'll think about it differently now, for sure.
Wow. Yeah.
Also, what I love about Terminator 2, dude, that theme song is beautiful. It's so powerful, and it was lost on the first movie because they used that cheesy 80s synth to do it, and when they weren't using the cheesy 80s synth, there's that one forced love scene between Reese. Yeah, and they play the same theme, but now it's on a cheesy 80s piano. So they just changed their synth to piano mode, and that movie killed what is otherwise a beautiful orchestral theme, and it's so powerful and it's driving. And man, Terminator 2 brought that home. Like it. That is so beautiful. That doom 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 doom. I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I think it's one of my favorite movie scores ever.
Yeah, who did the score? I wonder if it was James Horner. I know he did the score for Titanic. I don't know if he does.
No, it's the same guy who did both, who wrote it. I think it's Michael something. I noticed. But I'm very glad that they were able to take the same themes. And Terminator 1 is very much, for me, it's not timeless at all. But man, Terminator 2, I think, is very timeless. Even the special effects now, 24 years later, they hold up so well. When you watched it recently, what did you think about the special effects? I thought they were fantastic, man. I mean, a few little misses here and there, but good Lord, it holds up.
It does hold up. And the best instance of it to me is at the end in their final battle scene. I think that they're in like some type of quarry or there's that vat of hot lava.
Yeah, they're in like a metalworking shop or something,
Yeah, well, Arnold, who is missing an arm now, stabs the T-1000 with some type of blunt rod. It goes through his oblique, and he just pulls it out from the side. And you're just like, that to me was just like, even now, like, holy crap, like, this is, it blew me away. It still blew me away.
Yeah. And that shot where he gets shot in the head and it pans through and you see Sarah Connor through him.
Yeah.
Think about 91. I mean, but here's what sears this movie into my brain. And tell me if you take away the same thing. This movie is all about humanity, as we've discussed before, and they use this coldness of machines. They're using the antithesis of humanity and what it is to they're saying, well, we're talking about humanity, but here's exact opposite. So just we're subtracting it. And no one in this movie is a nice person. Even John Connor is a little shit. Okay?
Oh, yeah, he is.
No one in this movie. His best friend is Budnick from Salute Your Shorts. And Budnick's a little twerp, man. No one in this movie is nice. Even the humans do not have humanity in this movie. Sarah Connor would like to have humanity, but she can't. She's not allowed to. Because of everything she knows and all the sacrifices she has to make, she has to be this cold machine. And they battle that, her and John. John is really the only voice of humanity in the whole movie. There's the scene where Sarah tries to go kill the programmer. Right.
Who created Skynet.
Mm-hmm. And that's really where she finally comes to terms with, am I a machine? Do I need to act like a machine and get the job done, or can I be a human? And where do we draw the line?
Right. She shows humanity with Miles Dawson whenever they raid the house. They raid his house. Mm-hmm. It does show a lot, but to me, his storyline is where I think is pretty much the only thing that really thought of that just took me out of it a little bit. I couldn't get invested for some reason. Maybe it was the casting. I don't know specifically what it was, but it just seemed a little, it was necessary to the plot. I understand that, but to me, just the way that was executed, it just seemed a little clunky. I mean, it ended up spawning off into a whole different movie, which is fine and definitely very innovative in a sense because, he brings it back around with the T-1000 coming towards at the end of the movie. They have the final chases and showdowns.
Right.
But to me, it seemed to be a little off course a little bit. It made it a little too big for me. I liked thinking about Skynet as this untouchable, force, kind of like you think about, like the IRS. It's like you cannot get a hold of the IRS, but if they want to get a hold of you, you bet your ass they're going to get a hold of you one way or another.
I like that, and I actually want to touch base on that here when we start talking about the next few Terminator movies. One scene, this is, so one of the classic scenes is Sarah's dreaming, I guess, and she goes to the playground. Mm-hmm. And she sees herself and little John Connor, you assume, and she knows that the destruction is coming. This whole movie is about desperation and grasping at straws. Even when you're not running from the Terminator, you're set with the overarching theme of humanity and how we're going to lose it. And everybody's an asshole, man. They go to this Mexican guy's house where their stash is, and this guy, he's a survivalist, and he's got a family, man, and he's a nice guy, but it doesn't matter because he's a stone cold killer, man, and he's on the lam too, even though we don't really know what it's for, everybody's just grasping, man. And then she has this dream where she's at the playground and she's looking at herself and she's trying to warn them, it's coming, and no one hears her. And this playground is supposed to represent humanity, and everybody's having a good time. But look past the playground. It's a cold, dead city. We go right back to the same themes, man. It's steel. It's gray. This beautiful playground, all it has to overlook is just coldness and death. And that's coldness and death that we've created, man. Like, this movie does it. I don't know any other movie that does it like this. It rocks my world every time. What else do we want to say about Terminator 2?
I think we've kind of hit the gamut, we have with it. It's, Arnold has this huge role that he's known for, and he only says 700 words of dialogue the entire damn time.
It's so violent. It's so cool. It's so controlled. The whole time I feel like I am grasping at straws with them. The whole movie, they never really have the upper edge. Like, how can you, dude, the scene where they go to, here's how awesome Linda Hamilton is and how awesome of a character Sarah Connor is. When they go to the hospital to rescue her, she doesn't have a lot of time to react. She's breaking out. She sees Arnold. We go back to the original. She thinks he's the bad guy, right?
Right.
Okay. Before she knows it, there's her son saying it's okay. Then she sees the frickin' T-1000 walk through a wall. Then they have to run to the elevator. And what does she say right there? I love this scene, man. Every time. She doesn't even have to think. She grabs a handgun and starts shooting. She doesn't know what it is, but it doesn't matter. Because she's clear in what she has to do. She's like, what the F is it? What the F is it? She doesn't know what she's just totally perplexed, but it doesn't matter. She's a killer, man. She's stone cold.
She is a stone cold killer. And it's cool because she kind of, where she finds out about herself is where the violence and stuff comes from. It all comes from she's a mother, a mama bear trying to protect her cub, essentially, in every sense of the word. It's all about her son. The reason why she cares is because of John. That is why.
Yep.
Otherwise, why would she doesn't care about, she sees all the evil in people, but this John, she sees good in John. And and ironically, really not ironically, by way of the script, John Connor is the savior of man.
She does not allow herself to be a human because she knows she can't afford to.
She can't afford to for the sake of John, but she wants John to have that liberty and that luxury.
At least for a little while. Because,
at least for a little while.
Right. So here's what I think. Let's move on.
Okay.
So here's another interesting fact. Do you realize that Linda Hamilton married James Cameron?
Oh, really? Was this after he married Catherine Bigelow? Do you have any clue?
This was before, I think.
Okay.
When they got divorced, she got the rights to the Terminator.
No shit.
Yeah. So then she promptly sold them. So I think we can all blame we could possibly blame these on Linda Hamilton.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were the other? I don't think the other two were made by Fox. No, who's the main studio?
Well,
with those?
The thing is, it keeps passing hands because everyone keeps screwing it up.
Yeah, you're right. It does. That's why I can't think about it because it does keep passing hands.
She sold it. She was single-handedly one of the best things about the Terminator franchise.
Right.
And also the worst. Because, man, they keep screwing this franchise up.
Yeah, they do. Wow. Yeah, because, the third one was just whatever. And then Terminator Salvation with Christian Bale, not good.
No, it's not. And I have a theory as to why these movies are not good. I think they're not grasping the core of what the Terminator movies are, okay? Terminator movies always allude to the war and Judgment Day, and they even do glimpses in each of these movies of this futuristic war with laser rifles and stuff, and that's cool. That's cool to get a little spiel of that. But these movies are not about that. These movies are trying to avoid that. You know, this goes back to letting the viewer make up in their mind, you know, what's happening. Don't show it to them. Let them build it up, because it's always going to be better in your mind. You know, that's why everybody says the book is always better than the movie. You know, these movies are not about great wars. They're not even about the beginning of those wars. These movies are about one or two people grasping at straws and running, and never having the upper hand from a superior machine, person, what have you. In the first movie, it's a human being man against Arnold's model. And in the second movie, they up the ante. Okay, you have a Terminator, but now we have a freaking liquid metal Terminator. You know? You're always outnumbered. You're always outgunned. You never have the upper hand. These movies are not about great futuristic sci-fi wars. We've got a million movies like that. Like there's Starship Troopers. Go watch that, right?
Yeah. Don't you think the idea though behind the whole Terminator thing, in theory, seeing a bunch of, you know, Terminators being produced in a factory is much scarier than it actually in practice, like in Terminator Salvation. That was far less scary to me. Far less scary. They just seemed indispensable, you know, foot soldiers at that point.
I agree, because
it takes away from it.
You're right. Sarah Connor says in Terminator 2, she says, I'm sorry, I think this is an extra scene. By the way, I'm sorry, let me backtrack. There are a couple different versions of Terminator 2. Do not watch. If you have not seen this movie in a while, do not watch the extended supercut. I want to give great props to the editing in this movie, because they cut out a lot of the warmth, which I think this movie needs the coldness. I accidentally watched the super extended cut, and there's a lot of warmth they brought back in, a lot of little extra scenes of humanizing, and it does not serve the movie well at all. You need to watch the theatrical release every time. But there's an extended scene that got cut, I believe, where they take the chip out of his head, out of the Terminator's head in the tool shop, and Sarah goes to destroy his processor. And Sarah says in the scene, even though Arnold is there to help them, and they need him, because how else are you going to kill a T-1000? She wants to destroy Arnold right there, and she can. And John stops her, and she says, you have no idea what it's like to kill one of these things. And there you go. Then we take these other movies, and they make it lighthearted, and it's just kind of another stock action movie, and that's not what this is about at all. No,
it's not what it's about, and that's not what makes it. And the third one kind of tried to do that. I think it's that one's very forgettable. I can hardly remember seeing it.
Yep, the third one, Arnold went and asked James's blessing before he did it.
Really? So
yeah.
Did he? And they're running from the Terminatrix, which is all I really remember about that movie. And the fact that Nick Stahl is in it.
Yeah, the third one, it reeks of, we've got no original ideas, so let's try to repeat this process again. But see, they tried to one up it. Now she's made of energy instead of liquid metal. The reason the third one failed, I think, is because it lacks all the coldness and the desperation of the first two movies.
It's not going to be able to be recreated. It's just not. The trailer for the new one was complete. I thought it was so confusing. I had no clue what the hell was going on.
Well, that's something to talk about. Let's get into that real quick. I do want to say, I think so. Terminator 3, I think, missed the mark because it just wasn't as cold. It wasn't as dead inside as these other ones. Terminator 4 is just not a Terminator movie at all. It's about the war.
Terminator Salvation, correct?
Right.
Yeah, it was,
and that was kind of it was supposed to be a reboot.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a reboot, and it just.
Well, you know, I think Christian Bale messed that up. Okay, I'm not a fan of Christian Bale. Maybe we need to talk about this at another podcast. I assume you probably are. Everybody is.
He's okay.
So Christian Bale was John Connor in Terminator Salvation in the future. Well, so the original script called for just a brief glimpse or two of John Connor. They really wanted to bring him into the second movie, but Christian Bale said, "If I'm going to sign on to this movie, you're going to write a bigger script for me." And not that the original would have been great, but I know this one wasn't good, and I bet you $1 million Christian Bale shoehorning himself into this script did not serve it well. It couldn't have, because to me it seems like they had to zig or zag at the last moment. It had to suffer.
He also had that famous meltdown,
Yep.
which I'm sure a lot of actors do. But man, that was a good one.
Yeah, I agree. That was a great meltdown. Are you a fan of Breaking Bad?
Yeah, I like it.
So Better Call Saul, we're 2 episodes in at the time of this recording, and one of the things I love about Better Call Saul right now so far is that they realize what they've done with Breaking Bad, and they realize its effect it had on society at large, and it's just such a beautiful piece of television. It will go down in the pantheon of great television, for sure. And they realize that if we're going to do Better Call Saul, we need to have a certain respect to that. So they're taking their time with Better Call Saul. Every episode has been brilliantly paced. It's been clever, and they realize that they don't need a hit right away. They're going to let this slow burn build in, and that's exactly what I think maybe they were trying to do with Terminator Salvation, but Christian Bale would not allow them to do.
Yeah, definitely the approach that we're taking to Filmageddon. You know, we're slowly just going to seep our way into your earbuds, and then you're just going to slowly be just completely obsessed, just waiting by the RSS feed, just every other week, just waiting for that episode to pop up.
So, new Terminator movie this summer, right?
Yeah.
Terminator Genesis. This is another reboot of the Terminator franchise, and you kind of touched on you're not feeling it.
I'm not feeling it, not whatsoever.
Why are you not feeling it? I know you kind of touched on it. Anything else?
I just thought the trailer was just confusing. It was so confusing to me. I just don't care anymore. I got my Terminator movies. I got them. I don't need any more. I'm good.
And they hold up great, right? The one
they hold up great. Yeah, I don't need anything else. It's unnecessary. It's just you know, it's just trying to put asses in seats. I get it. It's a business. Whatever. It's just the work seems so uninspired. You know, it has some good talent. You know, J.K. Simmons, Jai Courtney is actually a fairly decent actor. I think he could be okay. He is in the fifth Die Hard, and the Divergent series. You know, he's okay.
Right.
And then you got Arnold coming back. Who cares? I just don't care. He doesn't have the gravitas anymore.
Well, the problem with Arnold, and they proved in Terminator Salvation they can do this. We can use CG now to do a Terminator and make it look just like Arnold, and it looks really good.
Because he does not look good anymore.
He does not. What was the movie with him and Sylvester Stallone last year? Where the break
Escape Plan, which I gave a positive review.
Sylvester Stallone, man, he still looks cut. I think he looks so good for a 70-year-old man. And then you put Arnold next to Sylvester Stallone. Wow, Arnold looks bad, dude.
From James Cameron till Sylvester Stallone's pecs, you're gonna get it all here.
I mean, Arnold,
you're gonna get it all.
He's physically not capable of looking like a Terminator anymore, is he?
I don't know. Tell that to his bench press machine, which is bent.
That's true. California.
Yeah,
California. Well,
milk is for babies. I have to do a terrible Arnold impression.
So obviously the fanboy inside me wants this movie to be good, right?
Yeah, of course I want it to be good.
We want Terminator Genesis to be good. Here are the concerns I have, and a few glimmers of hope I have on this trailer. I watched it 1,000,000 times. Obviously, you're right. We're just trying to put asses in seats, right? Do we genuinely care about the lore of this franchise, or are we just trying to make another movie? I see glimmers in this trailer that they really do care.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said that if I was going to make another Terminator movie, you have to put it back in the 90s. I would make it take place 2 years after Terminator 2. Which
would be 2031.
No. I'm talking 95.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was thinking about when the war starts.
Yeah,
in
no.
2019, 2029.
You need to create that desperation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead, put it back in that time. I mean, I think whoever that little Asian guy is, I think he looks like a pretty sweet little T-1000.
Dude, he looks exactly like an Asian Robert Patrick.
That's funny, man.
Look at the trailer.
Yeah.
He does.
I think he plays the coldness and the deadness well.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's going to be good.
You don't see many Asians in very big movies, so that's pretty interesting.
It's always
as well.
good to see the Asians get a lead up on the white man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they're trying to create that desperation again. It does seem like it's set in a particular time. That chick looks like Sarah Connor. Who's that chick?
Oh, Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones, Khaleesi.
Okay, is that Khaleesi?
That is Khaleesi.
Amazing. She looks like Sarah Connor. She looks like Linda Hamilton.
Well, what's interesting is it's directed by Alan Taylor, who has directed several episodes of Game of Thrones.
Fantastic. I have glimmers of hope there. So here's the one little thing they pulled off. I'm going to give it to them one time, dude. Their reasoning behind why Arnold is old and fat in this movie is that he was a Terminator that was sent back, and he's aged 20 years.
Okay, interesting.
His name in this movie, she calls him Daddy or something like that. So all you guys writing fan fiction, there you go. There's your plot point. Daddy is the name for this Terminator, and that's why he's got gray. They played up his oldness in this movie. He's got gray hair, man. Like, he is an old Terminator, and I think that's really cool. There you go. There's some outside-of-the-box thinking for how can we shoehorn Arnold Schwarzenegger into the 10th Terminator movie.
Yeah, do you think they'll also get a really nice sponsorship with WD-40? Maybe he'll carry around like a WD-40 to, like, to grease it up his elbows and stuff. That would be really funny. That's a way to put asses in seats. Put that WD-40 logo on screen. They'll come running, I promise you.
So look, man.
Come July 1st, 2015, we'll be there.
I think it's going to suck, but man, I hope it's good. I have too much love for this franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, guys, we promised you a conversation about James Cameron, but what are you going to ask from us? You know, we talk about James Cameron. Of course, we're going to talk about the Terminator franchise. Of course, it's going to derail into that. You know, we just had to just let it loose this go around. You know, bear with us through this. These are exciting times. You know, not everybody always gets a platform to talk about James Cameron, and I've been looking for that platform. I didn't know it, but damn it, we're here and we're doing it. And thank you for sticking with us.
Yeah,
we love it.
I am officially James Cameron out. How about you?
No. Yeah, I'm good. But I mean, I love talking about these movies. Like, I didn't realize where this conversation was going to go. I mean, we knew we were going to set aside Terminator. We just didn't really know how we would, like, bookend it in a way to segue into that. But, you know, maybe we just, you know, this guy in closing about him. I mean, look at this. He's spawned so much good material, a wealth of material, and not a lot of material, but you don't need it. You know, that proves you don't need it. And true, he's not being talked about, you know, in the world of film criticism a whole lot. But, you know, he's got a lot of lasting power. And, you know, I know, you know, maybe you guys think that all we talk about is, you know, our favorite films or just movies that we like. We are finding ways to kind of to think about these films from a different perspective, films that we loved. We wanted to get that out of the way before we really honed in on specific things, you know? Isn't that what we were thinking about doing?
Yeah, for sure, man. We're just kind of getting our sea legs here for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, we have, you know, we still want the feedback. We have our Twitter page and stuff that I always forget the handles. Ryan has them memorized. You know, I have too many other important things going on. I'm at the movies all day. I mean, it may seem like easy work, but I mean, you know, somebody's gotta, you know,
somebody has to watch all these movies, man.
Yeah, you know, it's hard. You know, I gotta keep the lights on.
Look, I'll end it with saying, James Cameron is one of the few people who respects and does a service to sci-fi.
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay.
I'm not a big sci-fi fan whatsoever by any stretch.
I am, but with that comes I'm way more picky than I think most people. Okay? And there are a lot of hopeful sci-fi directors and creators and visionaries these days more than ever, but still, it's hard to touch James Cameron. The man truly respects it and will do it a service every time.
Indeed.
All right. That's all I've got. Cole, you got anything?
Yeah. You know, we're going to talk about
yes.
What we're going to do next week. We're going to talk about what we're going to talk about.
This podcast is hitting you on the day of the Academy Awards. Right. So enjoy tonight. We are going to be doing a special episode tonight after the Academy Awards that we're going to release. So tomorrow, keep a lookout for Filmageddon Episode 4.
Indeed. And on the next episode of Filmageddon, we are going to have our first guest.
I'm really excited.
A colleague of mine who's going to come on, hopefully, we haven't worked out the logistics, to talk about romantic comedies.
Now, why are we doing romantic comedies?
Okay, we were doing romantic comedies. We've been so stuck in these serious films. Stephen Hawking, Alan Turing, The Imitation Game, Chris Kyle killing people in American Sniper. We're sick of that, man. We want to show the love.
Let's breathe a little bit. Let's breathe a little bit.
Yes, let's breathe. And you know, maybe, if I want to watch You've Got Mail, I'm going to watch You've Got Mail. We haven't decided which 3 films I think we're going to discuss. I think we are, I don't know, I'm speaking for you, maybe 3 films. But some of them may not be good. Some of them may be cheesy. And also some of them may be very heartwarming and maybe cause you to think about them in a little different way. So that will be coming at you. I can't do the math, but it's going to be coming at you. So we'll release what films we're going to talk about. And if you have any suggestions when you hear this, some films that you might want us to talk about or take a look at, send us your feedback at filmageddon@gmail.com. Did I get that right?
filmageddonpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/filmageddoncast. You can send us a tweet. What do you want to hear? What do you think? Twitter.com/filmageddoncast. Cole, where can we read your reviews?
At freshfiction.tv.
Freshfiction.tv. Thanks again, guys. We really appreciate you hanging out with us. We're really excited about this community that we've been building. We appreciate all the feedback so far. It's been great talking with you guys on social media and just getting our ideas out.
It has. So how are we going to close this?
What's our sign-off? We'll be back.
Nope. I'm Cole Clay for Filmageddon, and this is... Wait. I'm Cole Clay for Filmageddon with... We should just leave these in. They're terrible.